KSC Presents. Here's why you'll never see mosquitoes at Disney World. The state of Florida is famous for many things, but chief among them is its weather. It's hot, flat and prone to heavy rain. The state has plenty of swampland. Now usually where there are swamps there are mosquitoes. But if you visit Disney World, you'll notice something weird. There's not a single one of the irritating bugs to be seen or felt. Walt Disney World Resort first opened its gates to the public in October 1971. The park was designed to build upon the success of Disneyland, which had opened in 1955 in Anaheim, California. Market surveys from the 1950s had revealed that only 5% of visitors to the West Coast attraction traveled from beyond the Mississippi River. Despite the fact this area contained 75% of America's population. Clearly, Disney was eager to tap into that huge potential market on the eastern side of the United States. As a result, the filmmaker personally chose a site near the Florida city of Bay Lake, between Kissimmee and Orlando, and it was here that Disney sought to build an attraction that was to become styled as the happiest place on earth. With that in mind, Disney put his heart and soul into designing the park, planning it mostly in secret throughout the 1960s under his special code name the Florida Project. Much more than an amusement park, Disney and his team envisaged a varied series of attractions. And he had daring plans for the park, part of which would become known as Epcot, standing for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. Epcot was designed to be a planned community that would test out new innovations in city living. It was spearheaded by Disney himself, but following his death in December 1966, the experimental plans were abandoned. Instead, Walt Disney World became more like Disneyland than had first been intended. So sadly, Disney didn't get to see his dreams for Walt Disney World realized. The first part of the park to open was the Magic Kingdom in 1971. Epcot followed 11 years later, and Disney's Hollywood Studios and Disney's Animal Kingdom opened in 1989 and 1998 respectively. The park now welcomes more visitors each year than any other vacation resort on the planet. Walt Disney World gets over 52 million annual visitors. Furthermore, in 2014, all 4 of the parks within the resort ranked within the 10 most visited theme parks on the globe. The Magic Kingdom topped the list at number 1 with an impressive 19,332,000 visitors. But visitors aren't the only people who populate the park to keep things ticking over. Disney World employs over 74,000 so-called cast members, making it the biggest single-site employer in the country. Given the sheer numbers that Walt Disney World attracts, running the resort is a massive operation. There are 36 hotels and resorts on Disney's Florida property. With that in mind, if you wanted to spend a night in every hotel room in the park, it would take 68 years of your life. Furthermore, Disney World is huge, comprising almost 25,000 acres of land. It's actually the same size as San Francisco and twice as large as Manhattan. Furthermore, only half the land is currently being used. Disney himself was eager to preserve the area upon which the park sits. So a third of the property is in fact protected for conservation. Getting visitors around Walt Disney Resort requires an impressive public transportation system. In fact, the park's travel infrastructure is better than those found in some American cities. with close to 400 buses operating throughout the site. For instance, it has a larger fleet than the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. To ensure that the park runs as smoothly as possible, it seems that no detail has gone overlooked at Walt Disney World. For instance, you are never far from a waste receptacle at Disney. This was Disney's idea after he visited other parks and monitored how long people would keep their trash before discarding it on the floor. He found that it was about 30 steps, so that influenced how he spaced out his bins. Furthermore, the Magic Kingdom was built on top of series of tunnels. While they've been described as an underground city, they are actually at ground level. That's because Florida lies at sea level. So, engineers were unable to hide a system of subterranean passages below the ground. So instead, they simply built the park on top. The tunnels that service the Magic Kingdom are known as utilidors. And it's here that cast members get their costumes and take their breaks. The complex underground system was reportedly Disney's idea. Who didn't want characters walking through the park to get to their place of work? Another way that Disney tries to preserve the magic is through the use of smellitizers. These devices are placed all around the resort and give out scents relating to the areas in which they sit. For instance, the Main Street smellitizers smell like cookies and vanilla, whereas the ones by the Pirates of the Caribbean ride smell like salty sea air. As well as smelling amazing, Walt Disney World has to look the part too. With that in mind, more than 3 million flowering shrubs are planted in the park each year. Furthermore, horticultural workers are also responsible for the care of 200 topiaries, 13,000 roses and 2 million plants. And given that so much effort goes into making Walt Disney World look pristine, Disney himself was eager to keep it that way. As a result, he banned all Disney parks from selling chewing gum in a bid to keep them. And visitors shows as clean as possible, so if you want to chew, you'll have to bring your own. It's fair to say then that the team at Disney has gone above and beyond to ensure that visiting the company's park is as magical as possible. However, there's one consideration that Walt Disney Resort has taken which is so ingenious. It's hard to believe that it could even be true. That's because Disney has done all it can to make the attraction virtually mosquito-free. Disney's ability to practically eliminate mosquitoes at their Florida resort is all the more amazing when you learn that much of it was built on former swampland. In fact, most Southerners would likely attest that the blood-sucking insects are an inevitable part of life in a hot place surrounded by marshy lowlands, but not at Disney. The mission to banish mosquitoes at Walt Disney Resort seemingly began with a meeting between Walt Disney and Major General William Joe Potter at the 1964 World's Fair in New York City. Potter was a graduate of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and an engineering expert. And prior to meeting Disney, he was the governor of the Panama Canal Zone. The Panama Canal Zone had been an unincorporated territory of the U.S. from 1903 to 1979. And in order to build the Panama Canal, it was important that authorities could control the spread of malaria in the area, which is transmitted by mosquitoes, and it was here that Potter reportedly picked up his vast pest control knowledge. Apparently, when Disney heard about Potter's work as an engineer helping to control mosquito swarms in the Panama Canal Zone, he hired him there and then. He then put him to work on his so-called Florida project, which could become the Walt Disney World Resort as we know and love it today. Thanks in part to Potter's legacy, it's now unlikely that guests will be bothered by mosquitoes during their visit to Walt Disney World. While it is impossible to eliminate the pesky bugs altogether, the staff at the park use a range of techniques to keep the bloodsuckers at bay, and they appear to work well. So while Disney World may be the happiest place on the planet for humans, its attraction doesn't spread to mosquitoes. In fact, rather than killing adult bugs, the resort tries to make itself as unattractive as possible a place for them to lay their eggs. That way, the park can keep the population down permanently. One such way of keeping mosquitoes at bay is to ensure there's no still water at Walt Disney World at all. The insects are attacked to stand in water as it's the perfect place to lay their eggs. So if you can avoid creating a breeding ground for mosquitoes, then you can start to tackle the problem. Ridding Disney World of all standing water sounds like a simple enough solution until you remember that the resort was built on a swamp. Consequently, after being employed by Disney, Potter started work on the construction of a vast drainage system to transform the boggy land into something better suited to construction. The original drainage gutters that Potter installed are still in use at Disney World today. Moreover, they are affectionately known as Joe's ditches, after the man who first envisaged them. Their primary purpose is to keep all water flowing through the park at all the times, without ever coming to a standstill. Explaining the concept behind Potter's drainage system, Disney expert Christopher Lucas told Reader's Digest magazine, "The guests usually don't notice it, but the water is constantly flowing whenever you walk by a body of water. There's usually a fountain in the middle of it, or they are doing something to keep it flowing." The system has proved so successful that whenever Disney is in the process of planning a new development, it buys more land than it needs for the property alone in order to accommodate drainage ditches. However, that's not the only way the company designs its project to prevent water from gathering. Disney also designs its buildings to ensure water cannot collect anywhere on the structure. Lucas told Reader's Digest, "All of the buildings are built so that water flows right off of them, with all the rainstorms. If water got caught on the buildings, it would form a pool. And then mosquitoes have hatched their eggs and you'd have thousands of mosquitoes." The way that Disney achieves this is by ensuring water runs straight off the buildings. Lucas said, "They made every building there curved or designed in a way so there'd be no place for the water to catch and sit there. The architecture is really appealing to the eye, but it also serves the purpose. It makes it less conducive to mosquitoes. Standing water is very much seen as the enemy when it comes to Disney's mission against mosquitoes. As a result, even the plants that are dotted around Disney World are taken into account. Specifically, in order to prevent puddles from forming in foliage, only certain species are used. Furthermore, any bodies of water, which as we've covered usually include a fountain to keep things flowing, are kept clear of plants such as water lilies, which can cover up mosquito larvae." Lucas revealed to Reader's Digest, "They also fill those places with minnows, goldfish, and type of fish called mosquito fish that eat the larvae. As well as avoiding standing pools of water at all costs, Disney also uses sprays to combat mosquitoes. However, it stays away from nasty pesticides at Walt Disney's own request, Lucas explained. He did not want to ruin the environment at all, so they couldn't use pesticides. It would be easy to just spray the whole thing, but he wanted it to be something natural. So in a further bid to repel mosquitoes, the staff at Walt Disney World Resort actually uses garlic sprays. The insects are apparently averse to the pungent-smelling plants, so the resort diffuses an extract all around the park. Lucas told Reader's Digest, "The amount that they use is so small that humans can't smell it, but mosquitoes are very susceptible to it." And while garlic sprays might sound bizarre, that's nothing compared to Disney's use of chickens in the fight against mosquitoes. The birds are kept in coops all around the resort and live pretty ordinary lives. However, they do undergo regular blood checks to determine if they've been exposed to any mosquito-caused diseases. Some of the diseases that mosquitoes spread include Zika and West Nile. And while chickens are not prone to such viruses, they will show up in their blood. Staff at Disney can then see where any affected birds live in the park, helping them to determine which part of the resort needs more mosquito-bitten attention. While Potter's legacy is still clear to see in Disney's mosquitoes-busting efforts, the park continues to improve its mosquito surveillance program. One way it does this is by testing the mosquitoes that do make it into Disney World so they can better understand how to tackle them in the future. Nevertheless, Potter's influence has certainly not been forgotten. Following his death in 1988, Dick Nonnis, Walt Disney Attractions' former president, said, "Joe was a man Walt Disney was very fond of. Without Joe Potter, there would be no Walt Disney World today." According to an extract on the official Disney Fan Club website. Moreover, in 1997, Potter was made a Disney legend, and in yet another tribute from the company. One of the ferries that operate on Seven Seas Lagoon was renamed General Joe Potter. However, most people who visit the park presumably have no idea the part he played in preventing them from getting pesky mosquito bites. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.